Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shah, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shah. All praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah, Ba'ashem Kakadash. Yahweh being the name of the Heavenly Father, Yahweh Shah being the name of his only begotten Son, who they ignorantly call Jesus Christ. Now, when you look at this siege that happened to the Israelites, it's a clear situation. And um, it was prophecy because Yahweh Shah, who they ignorantly call Jesus Christ, prophesied about the situation around about 33 CE when he was alive. And he was telling the Israelites they're going to come and besiege this city. They're going to come and destroy this city. The temple was not going to have a brick standing. They're going to level this city like somebody dropping a bomb on it. And sure enough, from 65 to 70 AD, the Roman army, which was the Edomite army, the adversary of God, the Edomites who always been oppressing the Israelites and battling with the Israelites, and being their adversary when they took rulership during the Greeks and then the Romans, they was having the Israelites in captivity through garrisons and everything. But the Israelites um, and these Edomites went to battling each other during 65 BC or AD because Yahushua was dead already. So it says the Romans came and captured the city, and the general that was doing it, his name was Vespucian, and he had his son Titus with him. And they went in and slaughtered these Israelites, which Luke 21 said they was going to do, slaughter them by the sword. And they took away a lot of them captive. And so while they was doing this, Yahushua told the Israelites, he said, flee into the mountains, man. Flee into the other nations if you don't want to be slaughtered by these Edomites. If you don't want to be slaughtered, you best to flee up out of this place. See, he was prophesying the destruction. He was warning these Israelites, y'all better get out of here. And don't sit around and mourn for me, because guess what? You better mourn for your own children. Because when these Edomites come to destroy this city, you is going to be finished. They going to put y'all to death and throw y'all behind into slavery. So go ahead and flee in the other nations. Because kingdoms represent nations. I mean, mountains represents nations. Let's go ahead and get that real quick. Salakia. When you go to Jeremiah, let's see, 51 and 25. Okay. Verse 25, it says, behold, I am against you, O destroying mountain. Now, when it's talking about this destroying mountain, it's talking about Mount Seir. And uh, it also is talking about these other kingdoms. But to be specific, it's talking about Mount Seir, but they were seen as a mountain. And let me get Daniel. Is it in Daniel or Revelation? Um, you know what? Yahushua, he said mountain. Let me see. Is it 2020? Perfect vision? It might be 2021. Yeah, let's try 2021. 21, 21. Because he was talking about mountains, and he was talking about them in the midst of these other nations. Look what he said in 21. He said, Yahweh shall answer and said unto them, verily I say unto you, if ye have faith and doubt not, ye shall not only do this which is done to the fig tree, but also if you shall say unto this mountain, be thou removed and be thou cast into the sea, it shall be done. So this is what uh the mountain represented a kingdom, because that fig tree represented a kingdom, and the mountain representing the kingdom. You go to Numbers, and it talks about the fig tree and king kingdoms being represented by trees. Then it talks about Mount Seir being represented as the kingdom of the Edomites. So it's used as a similitude for a kingdom. And let's go ahead and get that real quick. 12 and 10, I think. Yeah, it says, hold on. It says, I have also spoken by the prophets and have multiplied visions and used similitudes by the ministry of the prophets. So these similitudes, to Yahweh was a prophet, Jeremiah was a prophet. The similitude that's being used for mountain is the mountain is a kingdom. So when Yahweh let's go ahead and get it and let the word speak. 21, around about 7 and 8. And he said that. Okay, here it is, 21, 21, 21 again. It says, then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them that are in the midst of it depart out, and let not them that are in the countries enter therein. So that's another way you can see he was talking about countries. This mountain, or those mountains that he was telling them to flee into, he was telling them about these countries. If you say flee into the countries, and if you're in the countries, don't come back up in this city, because these Edomites is gonna destroy the city, man. And that's what happened. So now let's go back into it. Now, when they destroyed the city and they fled into Africa, Africa was those kingdoms in Africa is where they fled. Egypt, uh, all the countries in Africa, the west coast of Africa, the east coast, south, north, all the central, they was all in Africa. Even though they could have fled into what you call it, the European countries, but they mostly fled into Africa until at least about until 500 years when the Byzantine Empire took over, and then they started to take over Europe. But when they fled into Africa, they landed on the west coast. Now, when they was on the west coast of Africa, them people knew who they was. They didn't go down there and blend in just because they had dark skin and nappy hair. You see, they didn't just go down there and blend in with the so-called Africans, with the Hamites. In any place that these Hamites was at, that the Israelites fled into, they didn't go down there and blend in and nobody knew who they was. See, just like right today, we know who these Africans is when they come in our neighborhood. They could be living here, have a store and everything, and going to the schoolhouse and raise up 3, 4 generations. We know that them niggas is Africans. Them is not our peoples. They wasn't here when slavery was going on. They wasn't here until they start letting these immigrants come into the country in 1970s. These people wasn't here when we was in the cotton field. These people don't even look like us. These people got, you know, all kind of differences amongst themselves. They are not our people. It's just like dark skinned Hispanics. We know that they not from the same tribe as us. Now they could be our peoples, but we are did we know that's he must got some Spanish in his blood because look he looked like he got some Spanish and all this kind of stuff. We know who is who around him. We don't just be not knowing. So them Africans over there knew who them darn Israelites was. And when the white man came and made a deal with them kings, they said, well, we know where they live at, and we got a whole nation. We can go over there and get them Israelites. And the dragon knew about the Israelites because the whole time in 1492, it was being expulsion happened. All the Jews was being kicked out of that land. Oliver Cromwell, he was battling with all kind of people and kicking people out during the 1611 to 1648, the 30-year war. All of those lands up there was going through all kind of turmoil, and the so-called black Jews or the Israelites was being kicked out of those lands and expelled out of those lands. All you gotta do is type in 1492 expulsion, and it'll tell you. They'll show a map with all the lands that them people being kicked out of, and they was getting kicked out of those lands. And in the west coast of Africa, they was being kicked out of those lands. So it wasn't no mystery of who the Israelites was. It was an all-out attack on the Israelites, and these dragons and these Hamites done came up with a plan to throw these Israelites in slavery. But it was all a punishment from the Most High. Deuteronomy 28. It was their punishment. Daniel 9, 11, and 12. It was their punishment. See, Yahweh Luke 21, 24, he let them know this is what's going to happen. Now, it didn't just end right there when they got kicked out of Jerusalem. They was going to have a great uh, slavery, just like in Daniel said, this great evil. It was going to be a great slavery. That's why Joel 2, chapter 2 and chapter 3 is talking about slavery. That in the midst of slavery, the Lord is going to wake them up and raise them up. See, because them Benjamin, Judah, and Levi, they knew who they was in Jerusalem before the people came and attacked them. They knew they was Israelites. So that wasn't going to be uh, the time or the end of the situation just because he said you going into slavery to all nations. It was going to be a time while they was in slavery. That's that Hosea 1 and 10. That's that First Peter's 2 and 10, where it talks about they was gonna be not a people, meaning they not gonna know who the heck they are. They just gonna be in these other nations blind to who they are. That's what the whole Gentile thing was about in the New Testament. Matthew 15 and 24, Yahweh shall say, I am not sent but to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Paul was going to find those lost sheep. That's what the mission was all about. Finding the lost sheep, because only Judah, Benjamin, and Levi was in the homeland or in Jerusalem. So Yahweh came and said, well, find the lost sheep. These promises and these prophecies is for the 12 tribes of Israel. The same thing what Paul said in Acts 26, where he was telling the fat or the whatever the Caesar or the whoever that guy was, um, that was one of the Edomites, judging the situation, um, of the Jews or the Judah, Benjamin, Levi trying to kill Paul. So they had them turn him in so they wouldn't kill him. So Paul telling them this is the hope of the 12 tribes, man. They trying to kill me for the hope of the 12 tribes. Not because I'm trying to give it to other people, but for the hope of the 12 tribes and the promises of the 12 tribes. That's what the whole situation was about. It had nothing to do with somebody going and finding some heathen nation. No, that's out of the plan. The Most High been had a plan on his people. Uh, Being the kings and the priests, he showed an example with the priesthood. The priesthood was with one tribe, and he used that one tribe to uh, pretty much establish the law, deal with the law. Same thing with the whole nation. The whole nation was going to be a nation of kings and priests. Well, he was going to use them as the kings and priests on the earth. But just like Yahweh shall say, the one that's going to be the leader, he going to have to be the servant first. And that went for the whole nation. The whole nation was going to have to be servants and handmaids before they was going to be able to turn into kings and rule on the earth forever. And so this is the whole situation. It had nothing to do with some freaking Africans selling Africans. Them people weren't selling their own people. They were selling the Israelites. See, and the other nations was in cahoots with them. You had the Indian company. The Indian company came from the East Indian peoples, and they was building the ships. You had the Edomites and the Arabs selling the Israelites all over the place. You had the Africans snitching them out and telling them where they was at, what they was doing, helping them out. Fighting, warring with them, going to war and capturing a bunch of them. So it was all these people, all these nations in cahoots. That was that Psalms 83. They was all in cahoots with each other, meaning they was confederate with each other. They was united together to come against the Israelites. And this is why that slave trade was the greatest slavery on record in the history books. You see, and so uh, them people knew who he was. Everybody knew who he was, just like everybody know who he is now. We the greatest thing popping, and been the greatest thing popping since Reconstruction. When they let us off the plantation, even when we was on the plantation, we was the greatest thing popping because they was making all kind of money off our behind. So this is what um, people just don't understand. They either looking from it through the lens of these dragons. All Negroes is the same. All black people is the same. Or they looking at it um, through one of these other nations who trying to help the so-called white man. But um, when it comes to the Israelites being on the west coast of Africa and being exiled out of these European countries and thrown on them ships and brought over here to the other part of the world, it's a clear case when it comes to these Israelites and these people coming up with all kind of false names and false stories, telling bold-faced lies like Roots. The movie Roots telling all kind of lies. People from talking about they coming from Gambia. Ain't nobody came from no Gambia, man. They came from these countries over here. Ain't no Gambia nowhere to be found. But they acting like people just coming from anywhere. They was coming from the slave coast, which was the kingdom of Judah. They was coming from Europe and certain like Ireland and Scotland and all that. They was coming from there, coming from Spain. It was coming from all different places, and their people knew who they was. The Catholic Church knew who they was. See, it wasn't no mystery. But I'm gonna leave it there. All praise to Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shah, Ba'ashem Kakadash. Double honor to the elders, pushers of truth. Peace to the elect worldwide, the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, descendants of slaves, scattered around the globe on slave ships and through many captivities. Our kingdom is at hand. Shalom.